Well, things are going a little bit crazy here at Buxton FC off back of yesterday's episode of Rookie to Royalty. We've got two big games coming up. In today's episode, Kidderminster Harriers is planned in what is now a second versus third clash, as unfortunately Radcliffe have now jumped up to top spot in the Vanarama National League North, and also will take on Alfreton because they've found themselves a really good patch of form on the verge of making their way into the playoffs. So we've got two games coming up in today's episode, and that's partly because all of a sudden we might be in the midst here of a Tycoon Takeover. An Australian investor might give us 18.75 million to spend on new players. Always loved Australians, me, even though I'm a New Zealander. Never had a bad word to say about them. Just don't go check the New Zealand Build a Nation save, because yeah, we may have made some comments then, but now, love Australians. Love them. Give me money, please. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 12 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Buxton FC. I hope you're doing well, and come up day, we've got two quite big games. We look to go back on top of the Vanarama National League North here. With Buxton, we take on Kidderminster Harriers, who are just 1 point above us in second joint with Radcliffe, and then an Alfreton team who are in some really good form, as you would have seen during the course of that brief intro. And also, you would have seen it, we might be getting a Tycoon Takeover. Unfortunately, hasn't gone through prior to this first game that we're going to play, but we'll see if it happens before we take on Alfreton. Usually don't get that much detail if a Tycoon Takeover is actually going to go through about the actual guy's name and also the amount of money that they will invest. So it seems like we might actually have lucked out big time here with our first job of the save. You can see the board alert. There's a takeover in progress. I'm pretty sure it's that one involving £18.75 million from some Australian investor. I imagine he's from Western Australia, Perth or somewhere. Might have something to do with the Aussie Gold Digger program. Something like that, because honestly, otherwise, not too sure how an Australian has that much blooming money to invest in a Vanarama National League North team of all leagues. But if we get £18.75 million to spend, I won't be complaining. It certainly will make things interesting in our push for a playoff spot, which thankfully is still alive off the back of the 3 games we've played off camera since that 2-0 loss to Radcliffe, as well as the other 2 games we made our way through during the course of yesterday's episode. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. First up, we took on Russia Olympic away from home, picked up a 2-0 win here. Quite a good first half, goals to Viggers and Jack Stobbs. So thankfully, back in winning form for the first time there in a little while. Then we took on Braintree Town at home, a 0-0 draw. Our home form of late has actually been really poor here with this Buxton team. Only 1 win in the last 4 games at home. Before then, it was going a lot better, but now it's turned to absolute poop in this game. We'll check the match stats, to be fair, not on the front foot too much, but some disappointing results all of a sudden we're picking up here at home. So wasn't too happy about that result, albeit Braintree, despite the fact they are down in 15th. We're expected to finish 7th. I think that's actually better once we make our way over to the season preview. They got relegated last season from the Vanarama National League, and we're expected to finish 4th here on this screen. So that's actually not as bad a result as it looks, but still annoying that we've dropped some points there at home. And going back to the schedule and that last game that we played, a 1-0 win away at Chorley, which, to be fair, that's the team that tripped up Kidderminster Harriers back when we lost to Radcliffe. A missed chance for us there to keep pace with them at that stage on the Vanarama National League North table. But thankfully, Wilbur Parger here did pick up a goal just before halftime. We did miss a penalty early in the second half through Jack Stobbs, but thankfully that didn't prove too costly. So our form all of a sudden not that bad. We've picked up 7 points from our last 3 games, and we are keeping pace with the 2 teams who are above us now on that Vanarama National League North table. Unfortunately, Radcliffe, off back of that win that they did get over us, have jumped above us and are now 1 point clear, joint on points with Kidderminster Harriers. But I think because they've lost less games, they're on top of the table. They haven't won more, but they've lost less. So I imagine that's what's going on. The goal differential exactly the same. Thankfully, we're just 1 point behind with a much superior goal differential. So maybe that might work in our favour. We'll check that if we need to, if things do get tight late on in this season. But still, we've got 14 games left in this Vanarama National North League. We are certainly right in that fight. But today is going to be a pretty big episode with that potential pending Tycoon Takeover, and also the 2 teams that we do play. First up, we've got Kidderminster Harriers. This was a game that we had earmarked going into the end of yesterday's episode as a big one. I thought it might be the only one we'd come back for today, but the Tycoon Takeover and also the form of Alfreton Town does mean that we'll squeeze into for this episode. But these guys have been pretty average of late, honestly. The last 2 games, they have dropped points. That's the reason we have caught up to them a little bit in Radcliffe, have gone above them. But of course, they did beat us earlier this season. That was at Agborough, and last season we beat them when we needed to keep ourselves in this division and in this job. So a bit of history here with this Kidderminster Harriers team, who've unfortunately just gone above us over the course of the episodes. But fingers crossed here, we can pick up a win, especially at home, and go above them and back into potentially top spot, depending on what Radcliffe do those guys are taking on during the course of this episode. Lowest off town, those guys all the way down in 20 seconds. To be fair, you'd probably expect them to win that game, and then they take on Peterborough Sports, who can prove tricky. They beat us the last time we took them on away from home, but games you'd still probably expect their Radcliffe to win, so hopefully can pick up some good results today and keep pace with those guys off the back of that defeat they handed us. Second up in yesterday's episode, but thankfully been a few weeks since we played those games at the end of yesterday's episode, and week-long gaps since then as well in the schedule. So it does mean if we go over to the medical centre, we've got no issues at all. A couple of players recently returned from injury, and Ethan Fitzhugh and Charlie Pavey. We're getting them back to full fitness through some game time with the under 18s, but it does mean a full squad available for the first time in quite a while here at Buxton. We're going to keep Reece Truman in goal. You can see there his last 5 games, his rating is actually quite good. But during the course of those last couple of games that we have played, it was in that first one against Russia Olympic, we did make a change just to see if it would help us out in terms of our defence. And I think it's been working so far. We have moved to a standard defensive line going with a proper mid-block instead of the lower defensive line that we did have previously. So hopefully that change does mean we might be a bit more solid defensively. To be fair, defensively this season, we have actually been the best team in the division. But the last couple of games that we have played since we've made that switch, we've conceded no goals in 3 games. But to be fair, even before then, no goals apart from that Radcliffe one and the 5 around that. But our defence all of a sudden is looking quite good. So hopefully just pushing up a little bit more might mean we're solid defensively and can get going on attack. Our recent form in terms of goal scoring, not actually that good. So hopefully we'll kick into life during the course here of today's episode and can start off with a good result as we take on Kidderminster Harriers in what should be on paper our toughest test of the season, remaining apart from the fact that this one is at home. So hopefully can pick up a result here, get revenge on Kidderminster Harriers or earlier this season. But we're going in this game with our overall best 11 for the first time in quite a while. So hopefully they can do the job for us. A couple of them up front, not on the best ratings, but fingers crossed here they can find some goal scoring form. Got a couple of green links now in the middle of the field, and we can get a result here. We might even tell them to get revenge on these guys, seeing as they did beat us earlier this season. That sometimes does work, that team talk, quite well. About 99% of the time it always works. Let's hope here that we can pick up a win at home for the first time in a little while. But that's our best 11 even. Truman in goal, Hambury still working his way back from injury, and Truman, while he was injured, actually did pretty well for the most part, apart from that goal that got headed around him in one of those games while Hambury did have that injury. But hopefully here can pick up a result over Kidderminster and keep pace with Radcliffe, and at the very least go up into second on that Vanarama National League North table to hopefully make sure that that rich investor from Australia does actually want to invest some money into us here at the Bucks. But the first hole of this game, only 3 minutes in, is in our favour. We actually take that one short, which is a bit surprising. Nice through ball there to Di Girolamo. Takes on the shot, was put under a bit of pressure there, and unfortunately could only really put that one into the path of their goalkeeper. But early stages here, we are on the front foot. Another highlight for us here of run on the halfway line. Just 5 minutes in, Kirby plays that one back there to Broadbent, who now goes back out there to Kirby, and he picks out here down our right-hand side, stops, tries to float that one over there. I think that would have been for Fitzhugh, but unfortunately, that header goes just over the bar. But a couple of good early chances for us now in this game, and off the back of the clearance there from that goal kick, we continue to be on the front foot. So a real encouraging start for us here in this game. Maybe going that mid-defensive line, that standard one, is going to help. Unfortunately there, though, a pretty poor pass back. Not too sure who that was. It might have been Stobbs there down our right-hand side. Does mean that it is here Kidderminster who do get on the ball for the first time in this game. They float that one into the mixer. Thankfully, we actually head that one away. That pass there from Truman is a bit off the mark, but thankfully Kirby does run to get it, goes back to Truman. Now DG is on the ball. It's a bit of a lucky tackle. It falls to Kelly, who can't quite hit the targets. Early on here, we are getting quite a few chances, but can't quite hit the target, which has been a little bit of a theme for us recently here with this Buxton team. Our attack, which is supposed to be so good, has been struggling just a little bit. Now there's a chance here from set piece for Kidderminster, but thankfully Truman comes up there with a massive save, albeit the highlight now does continue. They keep the ball here down the right hand side. Fingers crossed though this highlight will come to an end. Thankfully, Leap there tracking back can get in the way of that ball, and this should bring this highlight to an end there as Broadbent looks for Kirby, but that pass not quite on the mark. So unfortunately, Kidderminster Harriers might get a chance off the back of that big save from Truman. Indeed they do, because Jordan Williams, a nice through ball there from, I think that was Scott Williams, that gets past Cunningham, and a poor pass there from Broadbent does mean we go 1-0 down. Broadbent still been our best centre-back of late, even better than Eastham, but we can make some bad mistakes at times. And with a Tycoon Takeover about to happen potentially with £18 million of money to spend, not a good time to make mistakes. Somehow Broadbent there does stay on a 7.0, but that is really disappointing. Up until that goal, did feel like we were well and truly on the front foot in this game. Our striker again, Indeja Alamo, not doing too well on a 6.3. Reminder, he is easily the highest paid player at the club. To be fair, if we get that Tycoon Takeover, that probably won't be as much of an issue, but a 6.3, not ideal. So we're going to make some subs here at halftime, because also Stobbs on a 6.4 isn't too great. Papaga will try there at right wing, and we may as well bring Viggers on while Deja Alamo is struggling, because it only feels like he currently, the attack is actually the area that's leading us down. But unfortunately, it was Broadbent there with a poor pass that did lead to that goal, which Kidderminster did score. But apart from that, we've been all over them. Just that one highlight, and unfortunately, they got a second chance and they made us pay. But so far in this game, we're definitely the team on the front foot. Let's hope at the very least we can grab an equaliser and keep pace with Kidderminster, and then our run home does look a little bit kind. We hopefully can play catch up then on Radcliffe. Unfortunately, go 1-0 up in their game. A good chance there for Fixtures from a free kick. Unfortunately, this time though, he can't hit the target. Those stats now definitely quite heavily in our favour. But we're still 1-0 down. Now we're going to have to make our way here out from back with a goal kick. Unfortunately, Kidderminster do win the ball. Robinson makes his way forward here down that right-hand side, just inside the byline now. But good work from Fixtures to win that ball back for us. Now, hopefully here, this time, we don't give the ball away stupidly and give them a chance to make it 2-0 and make us pay here for a couple of defensive errors. But thankfully, so far, our passing from this highlight hasn't been too bad. Leak now cuts inside, actually makes his way forward quite nicely. That pass, a little bit risky, but thankfully, Papaga does keep hold. Actually links up quite nicely there with Cunningham briefly. Now goes to Fixtures. He finds Kelly in a little bit of space. It was a long highlight, but yet again, we can't hit the blimmin' target. With lots of shots in this game, 10 more than Kidderminster Harriers, but only 3 more on target. Our XG is nearly an entire point higher than Kidderminster now it is, but we're still 1-0 down somehow, feeling pretty hardly FM currently in this game. We've got one more sub that we can make. Truman, I thought there might be dropping down to a little bit of a worse rating, as is Kelly. I actually thought that maybe we could try Truman in central attacking midfield. Might not need to. Kelly on a 6.7, so instead we'll take off Cunningham on that 6.5 for Matt Yates. His recent form actually has been really good. Let's hope he can provide some spark here late in this game and help us grab an equaliser, which I feel like we thoroughly deserve. But unfortunately, so far, it's not happening. Truman picks up a late injury. We've used all our subs, and now, as we're about to make our way into injury time, let's chuck our players up front here onto attack to hopefully help out Viggers actually score a goal. Also, we'll go a bit more direct here with our passing and be more expressive. But this would be disappointing, because against the second best team currently in the league, we've actually outplayed them, but somehow not picked up a result. That's a proper FMing there from Kidderminster. We made one big mistake there at the back through Tom Broadbent, and it proved costly. They bet Truman at that second time of asking off the back of a really good save from the corner before then. That's the reason he's kept his spot in goal, not doing too badly since we dropped him off the back of that FA Cup shocker. But unfortunately, another defensive mistake there does mean that we lose that game. But now, in a little bit of a goal drought here with this Buxton team, hopefully we can find a way to fix that. That's actually made more annoying by the fact we did chance conversion and chance creation training before this game. We might have to do that again before we take on Alfreton, who now make their way into a playoff spot. But unfortunately, now 4 points behind both Radcliffe and Kidderminster Harriers. Let's hope before we come back that next game that Tycoon Takeover might go through. So unfortunately a pretty filthy FMing we got handed to us there in that first game of today's episode. To be fair, don't mind losing to teams like Kidderminster, just not with stats like that. So unfortunately we dropped more points there at the Tarmac Silverlands at home. Form of late now has been absolutely rubbish. But let's go back over to the inbox. There's been some news come through. We have got a Tycoon Takeover. Australian investor K Beard has successfully completed a takeover of the National League North Club. Now let's see what happens. He's told TeamTalk.com that he will stop at nothing to ensure Buxton become one of the greatest forces in domestic and continental football. All of a sudden, this Journeyman might be turning into a little bit of a one-club save if we actually like this guy, and he's definitely starting off well with that first statement he's made here since joining Buxton. We've turned professional immediately. Not too sure how that's going to work, seeing as most of our players are on non-contracts. Maybe going to need to sort that out before we come back for the Alfreton Town game, which is still 6 days away. But we're now a professional club as well. There's a personal message. Money's been invested into developing the training ground and youth training facilities, and 1.4 million pumped into the coffers as well. Let's check the finances off the back of that message. That definitely makes a difference. We might now be the richest club here in the National League North, let alone the National League itself. Let's just go back here and see what else is in that inbox. Club vision expectations, no changes yet, which is quite good to see. Whether that changes once we finish the season for 2025-26, I imagine it will. He probably wants promotion if we don't get it this season, which unfortunately took a dent there in that first game during the course of today's episode. The transfer embargo has been lifted. That's quite handy. In a board meeting, they want to discuss increasing the available transfer budget, as such a move might help out on the pitch. Yes, just give me money. Just please give me money. I'm not going to say we want to spend it elsewhere, because that's probably happening already based on the statement that we saw before there by our new Aussie friend K Beard, probably the only one we've got here in life at the moment, with me being a New Zealander. It's a great idea. Show me the £18 million. If it's £18 million, I'm going to go off. That would be ridiculous here for this level in game. What amount of money are we going to get here from K Beard? Okay, it's a little bit of a letdown, but still, that's pretty good for this level. We've gone from 3k to 412. Certainly not the 18.25 million that got mentioned before the takeover, but still, that's quite handy. No doubt he's saving up for eventually when we make our way up to the Premier League and the Champions League and all that sort of stuff. Look at me now. I love this club. I just want to stay here for the rest of my career now that he's done that. But going over to our transfer budget, we can definitely sign some players if we need to. We probably don't even need to pay for players still at this level. We can shift most of it over into the wage budget and also, in fact, actually boost up their scouting budget a bit as well and get that back on track. Maybe start to scout here all of Europe or maybe just UK and Ireland for the rest of the season. But that means we've got a lot of money now that we can put in our wage budget. We've got a lot of money thanks to that Tycoon Takeover. We'll see if we do anything before we actually come back for the Alfreton game. Let's hope we can win it and not let down this new rich chairman of ours in our first game in charge. And we've gone forward to the date now of this Alfreton game. We're going to play second up in today's episode. Hopefully can impress that new chairman that we do have and pick up a decent result here away from home. But these guys, as I mentioned, going into today's episode, are in really good form. That continued with a 1-0 win, probably as expected, over a struggling Kingsland Town. But still, they've marched their way up the table the last couple of games that they have played. Now, right in that last playoff position, only 15 points behind us. I remember when that gap was something like 20 points. Our recent form has not helped, and still, 11 games left this season. We need to start picking up points soon just to absolutely make sure that we're actually going to be a playoff team this season. Of course, we also would quite like to go up automatically. No doubt that's the goal of our new chairman, if you're wondering. Not long enough yet to sign any new players. Actually going to wait and see what we do once we turn professional. I don't think it's officially happened yet. We've actually hired a few new staff, one extra coach, a sports scientist as well. Not too much to be fair. But if we look at our training calendar, it doesn't go professional until next week. So we'll see what happens then in terms of contracts and whatnot. So this is probably going to be the last game that we actually play as a somewhat semi-professional club. You can even see there that the week after, we're still in a semi-professional training schedule. So a little bit of weird stuff going on here currently with the transition between a semi-pro and a professional club. But for the moment, we'll stick with our players who've done a pretty good job this season. But if they let us down here, then maybe we need to consider doing something different. As I've mentioned now a few times today, our goal-scoring form of late has not been too good. But these guys in some really good form. So it's actually going to be quite a tricky game for us here away from home. Probably one of our toughest in the remainder of the season. If you're wondering, the other teams up there, Radcliffe, have got Peterborough Sports and Kidderminster. They've got Brickley Town, 21st and 14th. They're probably both going to win those games. We really want to pick up a win here, at least a draw, just to make sure we do stay in third spot. Otherwise, we might have to consider some slight tactical tweaks, because unfortunately, we've made some changes. We're scoring less goals. So beefy, that might be DJ Alamo. His average rating of late is something like 6.4. So I've had a word here to most players in our attack, just told them the recent form hasn't been good enough. Are sticking with our best 11, just that Tom Elliott comes in. Unfortunately, Will Truman picked up that injury in the first game, was out for 6 to 8 days. Does miss this one, should be back though for the game off the back of this one. There's Alfreton Town in some ridiculously good form going with a 4-3-3. Maybe what we need to do actually is change formation and just see if that breaks up this bad form that we're currently finding ourselves in. Maybe can try a 4-3-3. Kelly can play a bit further back. Also maybe could try a 4-2-4 with 2 strikers bigger as well as Di Girolamo starting. That might help us actually score some goals and see what formations actually suit our upcoming opponents. That might help us out instead of just sticking with this one tactic throughout the remainder of the season, just to change things up a little bit and try and get our form back. But unfortunately of late, it's gone to poop ever since that big gap we had before the Christmas break. An early free kick here to Alfreton. Thankfully, that one comes off the woodwork. So the home team here on the front foot, really considering their recent form, that's not too surprising. But thankfully, we just hold on there and keep this at nils. Radcliffe go 1-0 down, but now they float a ball far post there to Alfreton. And Pharrell Williams is very happy. He's a player we actually had on trial here prior to the start of the season. He didn't even look as good as Ryan Biggers, but he out-jumps there. Cunningham at right back. I say out-jumps. Cunningham didn't jump. I'm not too sure what our fullbacks are doing here at Buxton. That happens an awful lot, and we can see goals an awful lot like that. So unfortunately, we've done nothing early on in this game, and we go 1-0 down thanks to the part-time singer. And yeah, we're in trouble here all of a sudden. Our first game under new management. We do want to impress them, guys, and I've got lots of money to spend now. I can bin you guys off on a non-contract, so you actually need to play well here. Otherwise, you might be in trouble. I can actually send you down now, the under-21s. We've got that much money, a long-range effort there, though, from Alfreton. And again, they hit the woodwork, so they're definitely all over us early in this game. Bit of a turnaround from what we saw in that first game. Fingers crossed this time we can actually pick up maximum points, because it didn't help in the first game. We still lost it somehow. Absolutely filthy with that result back at home, even though Kidderminster are quite a good team. But unfortunately, Alfreton are in form, and they're showing it. We've been very poor so far in this game. Jack Stobbs on a yellow card will take off here for Ryan Biggers. To be fair, though, DJ Alamo, I'm getting sick of his recent form. So actually going to bring on here Papaga at right winger, get him to ease off tackles, and Biggers can go up front instead of DJ Alamo. Probably should actually start Biggers in his place for this game, but we'll give him one more chance. That might be the last one for a little while there for DJ Alamo. Maybe a formation change, as I suggested off the back of this game, a 4-3-3 or even a 4-2-4. But unfortunately, Alfreton here on the attack yet again early in the second half. Truman there comes up with a pretty decent save. It goes out for a corner, but still, it's not a goal, which is pretty good for Reece Truman based on some of the stuff we've seen so far in this save. We don't clear that ball away too well now, and Nagy is on the attack. Broadbent heads that one clear. Not too sure why Truman didn't come out and claim that one and probably bring that highlight to an end. But Pharrell Williams, will he make the home fans happy again? That corner does get found by a teammate, but thankfully a bit of a pullback there. That one does go high and wide, but we're getting battered here. It's not very comfortable watching. Williams now with a free kick. That one just goes wide. Not so happy for him. It's the only song I remember from Pharrell Williams, truth be told, apart from the whole nerd stuff. That's the only solo song I know of his. You're going to get lots of happy references if he scores again in this game, but unfortunately, we've been utter trash now. Tom Elliott picks up a yellow card on a 6.3, so I guess with our final sub, Hayden Lindley will come off him. We'll just see who's better suited there to central midfield. Neither of them really. Connor Kirby looks a bit better in balling midfield, so we'll leave him there. But maybe what we do here is go back to what was working back when we started here at Buxton with the fluid counter-attack. We'll go cautious, wing backs on support, and also maybe let's try out the lower defensive line again. I don't know if that's been the issue in the couple of games we've played during the course of today's episode. Defensively, I don't think we've been that bad compared to how we were back when we started, but we're just not scoring goals. So hopefully wing backs on support, they might help, and also trying to be a bit more suited to that counter-attacking style with that cautious mentality. But unfortunately, not quite working yet. For some reason there, I thought we had one extra sub still. Joseph Cunningham on that yellow card. He has to stay out there, which is a bit disappointing. He's also dropping down now to closer to a red heart. But now about to make our way to the final 10 minutes of this game. The cautious mentality hasn't been working by the looks of it, but now I've got a corner. Once we go positive leak here, we'll try and put this one near post. Unfortunately, no one home there in time for that ball that was put in, but Viggers does track back quite nicely. Lindley with an effort, but unfortunately, the post down that end is getting absolute work out in this game for the first time. We're on the attack, but yet again, we can't hit the target. Now it's time for us here late on to go attacking and see if we can find a way to grab a pretty lucky draw from this one. It will certainly make up for that loss we suffered first up in today's episode, but we can't. It's back-to-back defeats, and that time we look pretty down average. A potential little spike there once we did go to wing-backs instead of full-backs, so maybe we just go back to what was working early this season. Maybe we've changed things up a little bit too much here with this fluid counter-attacking style we're using at Buxton. But in terms of stats, I'm pretty sure our defence is actually quite good. It's just the goal scoring of late that's really letting us down, and it does mean that now we join on points with Oxford City, who are in fourth spot. Thankfully, that goal differential does mean that we do stay in third spot. Kidderminster, they go above Radcliffe as they did get held to a draw. So Kidderminster do go up top, and that's also off the back of a loss. In Kidderminster, they only picked up a draw, so a big missed chance for us yet again there to actually gain some ground on those teams in the top two spots of this Vanarama National League North. But unfortunately, our form here all of a sudden is kind of going to poop. Not a good time with that Tycoon Takeover just going through. Some of these players might now be on the chopping block off the back of those back-to-back defeats in today's episode. So a very mixed episode for us there today. On the field, not too good. I thought we might have turned things around off camera. We've now lost 1-0 to very differing performances. The first one, we definitely should have won that game. We ended up losing it there to Kidderminster Harriers, and then rubbish against Alfreton. To be fair, those guys are in quite good form, but still, another 1-0 defeat. You can see the Adija Alamo vowing to end his goal drought. That's now 7 hours of football without finding them. We've been telling him his form's been poor. Let's just check out what it actually says here over on the tactics screen. A 6.4 average rating. Jack Stobbs as well, not doing too well recently. I think some changes might be coming for that next game, which we do play. But Parry usually a bit more of a right winger, but his recent form actually even better than Ethan Fixtures. So I dare say for the next game I'll play off camera, we might try some different stuff. But also, of course, that's when we go to full-time training. Let's see if that helps. But unfortunately, our form here all of a sudden not going so well. And not a really good time of the season for it, because now only 12 points clear of that Alfreton Town team, and we've still got 12 games left this season. We could actually bottle here, not just top spot, but a playoff spot, and that definitely would not be a good way to impress our new bosses. Our rating's already gone down from an A+ to an A-, so definitely this run of form not too good. Of course, they still only expect us to finish mid-table, but we're certainly falling down that table quite concerningly. So we'll see what we do off the back of today's episode. If I sign some players, because we've got some guys in quite poor form, we probably could improve in some areas, like goalkeeper, sorry, Reece Truman, but really, we could actually improve on you with all that wage budget we do now have. So we'll see what we look like when we come back for the next episode. For me, it's going to be in a couple of days' time. For you guys, it will be tomorrow. It could be quite interesting with that big top of cash we've just had from that Tycoon Takeover. And also, what I might do is ditch these other tactics. We've got the direct counter-attack as well as the wing play, and just change that formation maybe to something like a 4-3-3. We might do that there, because Kelly can maybe do something in central midfield instead of further forward. That might help us out there in midfield for some games. And also what we could do actually is Kirby there, Elliott there, and then what we do is put Kelly up there, go for a 4-2-4, but obviously Di Girolamo does come in instead. So a couple of options we might go with there, see what one might work off camera before we come back for the next episode. And of course, that might be influenced by what we do in the transfer market with all that money that we have just got. But that will do it for a pretty big episode there today. Some poor results, but I can't be too disappointed because of Tycoon Takeover. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow. Not exactly sure what for, obviously, with all the stuff that's gone on today. We might come back sooner than I'm expecting, but to be fair, we really should win that next game. 23rd in the league, and we're at home, so if we don't win that, we're in all sorts of trouble. We've got some quite easy kills coming up in the next little while. Banbury could be a little bit tricky, but I think what I want to come back for is Southport and South Shields, those guys both in the playoff picture, and hopefully by then we've figured out something to work for the rest of the season and some players that we can bring in for our playoff push if that's what we decide to do, considering our dynamics here actually quite good. So I'm a little bit torn to what we do with that money that we've got, if we actually just wait until next season to bring players in or go for it now, or we've got a chance of potentially getting promotion up to the Vanarama National League. So we'll see what the situation is when we come back for tomorrow's episode. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.